was.
We ended up going back there again. I don't know if you saw that episode. Actually, there was a lot of
Halloween.
rooms down there we couldn't show on television.
Yeah, it was a little janky there.
Yeah, it was.
What if everything you thought you knew about American Pickers was just a polished cover-up? Why did a hit show, loved by millions, suddenly fade from your screen without warning? Was it bad ratings? Behind-the-scenes chaos?
Was a road-tripping, treasure-hunting adventure that millions of fans couldn't get enough?
Or something far more explosive? The truth isn't just surprising. It's buried under years of secrets, betrayal, and one shocking twist you never saw coming. Stick around till the end, because what we uncovered will absolutely blow your mind. From rust to riches, when American Pickers hit screens in 2010, it brought something fresh. Instead of scripted drama, it was all about digging through barns and sheds for forgotten treasures. Mike Wolfe, the creator, had a vision to showcase real people and real finds with a touch of American history. The show gave viewers a peek into small towns and back roads rarely seen on TV. It felt honest, raw, and totally different from the usual reality shows. The magic started with the setup. Two guys in a van, traveling across the country, looking for rusty gold. Viewers watched them enter cluttered barns, crawl through cobwebs, and uncover things that looked like junk, but weren't. Each pick told a story, and those stories pulled people in. Whether it was an old gas sign or a 1930s bike, every item connected to someone's past. Mike Wolfe, who was always interested and enthusiastic, was the show's voice and face. Frank Fritz kept him in check with his sense of humor and eye for interesting little things. It wasn't a showy connection, but it felt real, like two friends doing what they loved. Danielle Colby brought grit from the office and helped plan picks and run the shops. The three became the show's backbone, giving it both life and balance. The show's main draw was memories. It made older watchers remember things and made younger viewers want to know more. People saw parts of their childhood homes, their grandparents' homes, or historical sites in their area come back to life. It also honored the ideals of the working class, like honesty, hard work, and respect for the past. American Pickers slowed down a world that moves quickly and found beauty in the old and forgotten. 3 to 5 million people watched the show every week at its peak. That meant that a lot of people watched it on the History Channel. But it didn't just affect the numbers. It also affected things other than TV. Mike's shop, Antique Archaeology, became a popular place for tourists to visit. There were lots of clips, finds, and fan exchanges on social media. The name grew to include merchandise, books, and even its own shows. The emotional link was one of the most powerful parts of the show. Some shows were about more than just stuff. They were about keeping family history alive. People selling things talked about lost loved ones, childhood memories, and tales from the area. Pickers usually paid fair prices for things, which showed that they respected the things and what they meant. That made people trust you, so each show was more than just a sale. For some reason, the hunt was also very fun. People who watched never knew what was behind the door next door or under the boxes. It might be an old circus item or a rare motorbike. A sense of surprise kept people coming back week after week. The show had a good mix of mystery, learning, and the fun of finding something new. Most of the fans didn't know how hard they worked to make it look so easy. Before the show even aired, Mike Wolfe traveled for years. He made the early video himself, pitched it over and over, and kept getting turned down. The version that aired took years to make. When it did land, it made a lot of people angry and changed everything for the History Channel. A fact that isn't talked about very often is how American Pickers helped bring the antiques business back to life. After years of falling popularity, people became very interested in old collectibles. There were more people at flea markets, estate sales, and second-hand shops in the area. It also led to a lot of new collectors and pickers who were affected by what they saw on TV. Along with being fun, the show turned into a cause. This wasn't reality TV. It was a mission to save history before it disappeared under layers of dust and silence. The fallout. Nobody saw coming. For years, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz were the heartbeat of American Pickers. Their chemistry on screen felt real because it was real. They weren't just co-stars. They were longtime friends who shared back roads, junkyards, and greasy diners across America. But by season 21, something felt off. Frank vanished, and no one said why. There was no tribute episode, no proper send-off, no behind-the-scenes farewell. Just silence. Viewers were left guessing until months later, when the real cracks started to show. Frank came forward, revealing he'd had major back surgery and was recovering. But the bigger bombshell was what happened after. Frank claimed Mike never called, not once, not even to check on him. After years of friendship and filming together, that silence spoke volumes. Even more shocking, Frank said he found out he was no longer on the show through the grapevine, not from Mike. The network never gave an official reason. Fans who had followed them for years were stunned. Mike eventually released a brief statement saying he wished Frank the best and hoped he recovered fully. But it felt cold, more like a business move than a personal one. Social media exploded with anger. Many felt Mike had turned his back on someone who helped build the brand. The once loyal fan base started to fracture. Danielle Colby, a close friend to both men, found herself in the middle. She stayed on the show and seemed to side quietly with Mike. Her silence on Frank's situation raised more questions. Some fans felt she betrayed Frank. Others believed she was just doing her job and staying out of drama. After Frank's exit, something changed on screen. The show lost its natural flow. The back-and-forth energy that made it fun to watch was gone. Ratings began to slide. New pickers tried to fill the space, but the magic wasn't there. Frank wasn't just a co-host. He was the soul of the show. He had a rough charm and brought balance to Mike's polished delivery. Without him, the show leaned too much in one direction. It became less about friendship and more about business. That shift didn't sit well with longtime viewers. New episodes struggled to recapture the original vibe. Even loyal fans admitted it felt like something was missing. Attempts to move forward without addressing the fallout didn't help. Viewers noticed the tension behind the scenes. The fun, easygoing road trips felt more scripted. Some even accused the producers of covering up the real story. They wanted to protect the brand instead of addressing the elephant in the room. That choice cost them trust. Online forums and comment sections are filled with debates, theories, and disappointment. The transparency that once made the show feel genuine had cracked. Meanwhile, Frank continued to deal with serious health problems. He suffered a stroke not long after going public. Fans rallied behind him, hoping for a comeback. But his absence only made the show's new direction more painful to watch. One surprising detail that didn't get much attention was how the network handled the split. According to crew members, there were attempts to bring Frank back earlier, but it came with strict conditions. He allegedly refused, saying he wanted a real apology, not just airtime. That detail adds another layer to the feud. Behind the cameras, Mike began focusing more on building his brand. He opened more stores and expanded antique archaeology. Some saw this as ambition. Others saw it as trying to fill the void Frank left. Either way, the show's roots began to shift. Secrets History Channel won't admit. As the years passed, production behind American Pickers grew more expensive. Long road trips, expert appraisals, and antique storage all added up. Executive producers reportedly started raising concerns about how much it cost to keep the show running. At the same time, ratings weren't climbing like they used to. Networks began comparing the show's performance with newer content that was cheaper and faster to produce. The History Channel slowly started shifting its focus. Instead of old-school reality formats, they leaned into mini-docs and spin-offs like Pawn Stars Do America. These shows required less travel, fewer cast members, and quicker edits. That made them easier on the budget and faster to produce. American Pickers began to look outdated to decision-makers chasing new trends. Meanwhile, Mike Wolfe reportedly wanted to stick to the original vision. He preferred long drives to forgotten towns, sitting with people who had real stories behind their junk. Producers, however, were said to be pushing for quicker, more modern segments. They wanted fast cuts, brighter visuals, and scripted energy. That creative tug-of-war made things tense behind the scenes. In 2022, a secret pilot was quietly filmed without the main cast. It featured two younger pickers in their late 20s with a goal of rebooting the brand. The new style was loud, energetic, and loaded with pop culture references. The producers hoped it would bring in a younger audience used to TikTok-style content. But when test audiences saw it, the reaction was almost all negative. Viewers said it lacked everything that made American Pickers feel real. Comments included, "Too fake," "No charm," and "Where's the history?" There was no chemistry between the new cast, and their lack of real picking experience was obvious. They didn't connect with people the way Mike and Frank had. After one round of screenings, the idea was dropped without public notice. That secret pilot became a turning point. It confirmed that replacing the original cast wouldn't be easy. The History Channel had tried to quietly pass the torch, but fans weren't interested in a watered-down version. Executives scrapped the reboot and shelved any future ideas of a younger replacement team. From there, American Pickers was downgraded internally. The network no longer treated it as a headline show. There was no more aggressive marketing or big episode promos. It was quietly moved around in the schedule with fewer reruns and zero special events. It stopped getting spotlight space on the History Channel website and social media. That silence said more than any public statement ever could. In the TV world, when a show loses top billing, it's usually on borrowed time. The lack of energy from the network reflected how far it had fallen from its glory days. With no push, no buzz, and fewer new episodes, it faded from the spotlight fast. Even longtime fans started wondering if the show had ended without a farewell. It was a slow phase-out, not a sudden cancellation. Another behind-the-scenes issue involved sponsorship. As ad dollars tightened across networks, companies looked for fresher, faster formats. Shows with long run times and slower pacing didn't attract the same advertisers anymore. American Pickers used to pull in strong brand deals, but those deals shrank year by year. That meant less funding to keep production at a high level. As newer shows brought in bigger social media numbers, American Pickers struggled to adapt. Its older audience wasn't as active online, and the younger crowd never fully tuned in. That digital gap made it harder to stay visible in an age where content trends change daily. Even clips posted to YouTube didn't grab big numbers like other shows from the same network. The buzz just wasn't there anymore. One new storyline that surfaced quietly involved a rumored licensing dispute. Some insiders claimed the History Channel and Mike's production company disagreed over merchandising profits. Items like branded t-shirts, books, and antique replicas were a growing market. When the profits weren't shared evenly, tension grew off-camera. Although this was never confirmed publicly, several media leaks hinted at business trouble on the side. Another unspoken issue was fatigue. After more than a decade, the formula of the show started wearing thin, even for loyal viewers. The hunts felt predictable, the deals less exciting, and the finds didn't have the same wow factor. That repetition made the show feel stale, even when production tried to freshen it up. Over time, fans started drifting toward other series with new personalities and fresh stories. Without Frank, things got awkward. Add forced plots, awkward edits, and missing heart, and longtime fans started tuning out. Fans felt betrayed. The people who watched American Pickers changed, and not for the better. People who had been watching the show since the beginning felt like they were left out. A loud message could be heard on online boards, Facebook groups, and Reddit threads. This isn't our show anymore. Fans were confused and angry when Frank Fritz disappeared without giving a good reason. A lot of people did something about it. They signed digital petitions calling for his release. Some of them got tens of thousands of marks. Frank's departure made people feel something, and it wasn't just nostalgia. He balanced Mike's energy and gave him a point of view that was easier to understand. You couldn't get the same vibe from a co-host who just walked in and started talking. It was more than just a known face that the show lost when Mike brought in his brother Robbie. People saw the odd change when it lost its rhythm. Fans began to think that the shows were too clean, too perfect, and too staged. Picks got boring because it was always the same things, the same way of negotiating, and the same camera views. What seemed like a real journey through secret gems before now looked like a list of things that should be on TV. This season no longer had any emotional link or sense of wonder like the first few seasons did. For many, it was just another show trying to stay popular. Theories quickly spread among watchers who were upset. Some people thought that Frank was fired because of his health problems in order to save money. Some people thought Danielle Colby was being ignored or snubbed to change the mood of the show. People often said that Mike Wolfe had sold out, which meant that he let producers change everything to appeal to a wider TV audience. The show's writers' silence only made things worse, whether it was true or not. The main cast didn't give full answers, which made people less likely to trust them. There was no emotional goodbye at the end of the show. It just ended. There wasn't a special show to end things, and fans didn't get any last words. People who watched were left in the dark and had to guess why everything they loved was being taken away. Some people called it emotional whiplash because it went from being looked forward to every week to being completely quiet without notice. And in that silence, anger took the place of loyalty. People on YouTube and fan sites started to point out changes, inconsistencies, and signs of decline. A lot of people compared earlier seasons to later ones and said that production polish had taken the place of emotion. People missed how real the show was, with its dusty barns and strange people. It was never about fancy cars or big signs. It was always about the hunter's heart. Fans said that the heart was no longer there. People who were just starting to watch could tell there was a change because each show started to look like the others. There weren't as many stories or interesting things to look at, and the joy was gone. The show lost its ability to surprise and became boring. You could no longer look forward to anything new. Only old ideas, and dull pics were left. By the end, American Pickers looked like a copy of itself. It had lost the very thing that made it good in the first place. Ratings showed how frustrated people were. Numbers started to go down, and people who used to watch regularly started to stop. People were upset about the show's lack of authenticity in the comment areas under clips. A lot of people said they stopped watching after Frank left. Some people watched a few shows but stopped when it was clear that the magic was gone. An output report that got out in early 2024 gave us important new information. It showed that the network had tried out episodes with no voiceovers or commentary in order to make the show more minimalist. This stripped-down format was never released, but it showed that the leaders were really out of touch. It didn't work because they tried to fix what was broken. It failed before it even aired. Fans' worst fears came true. The people in charge didn't know what made American Pickers so great. The hidden truth buried under dust and ratings. When Frank Fritz left American Pickers, the balance broke instantly. His chemistry with Mike Wolfe wasn't just fun, it was the heart of the show. Fans tuned in for their banter, their contrast, and how their personalities clashed and clicked. Without Frank, it felt like something real was missing. The show's core bond disappeared, and the audience felt it right away. Mike tried to carry the show with his brother Robbie, but it didn't land. Robbie lacked the charisma that Frank brought naturally. The dynamic turned flat, and longtime viewers saw through it. It didn't feel like two buddies chasing rusty treasures anymore. It felt like a business deal caught on camera. That shift quietly pushed viewers away. At the same time, the History Channel was shifting too. The network moved from classic-style reality shows to content that was faster, cheaper, and targeted at younger streaming audiences. Long road trips and slow hunts for antiques didn't fit the new direction. History wanted content with quicker edits and more drama per minute. American Pickers just didn't match the vibe anymore. Costs of production were another issue that was getting worse. The crew had to go to different states, stay in hotels, get permits, and get permission to use music and video clips. On top of that, the older cast meant that health insurance and other costs tied to health went up. It was harder to defend the price when other shows got more clicks for less money. Behind the scenes, the price kept going up even though there were a lot of loyal fans. When the numbers stopped making sense, cuts had to be made. The last danger sign was a drop in viewers. Ratings slowly went down after Frank's last full season in 2020. But by 2021, the fall was very bad. There was less activity on social media, fewer people were online, and live watchers stopped showing up. People didn't care to watch as many repeats as they used to. People who were true fans began to move on. One last time, a new way was tried to bring the show back. Early in 2023, Mike Wolfe pitched networks an idea for a spin-off of a popular show. There was a simple idea behind it: share the untold stories behind famous picks, videos that haven't been seen before, and memories from the road. It would have been taken straight from the vault of antique archaeology and would have been full of history and memories. But no platform was willing to touch it without Frank. There were no streaming services on the pitch. It was turned down by Netflix, Hulu, and even Discovery Plus. They thought the brand had reached its peak and wouldn't be able to bring in new customers. No amount of stories about things that couldn't be seen could bring back the magic. It was no longer a good idea to invest in networks. The signs were clear by the end of 2023. There was a quiet pull of new shows from their normal times during prime time. There were no speeches or goodbyes. There was just a quiet escape. It only played during slow times, buried under repeats on the weekends. History didn't talk about it, and the crew didn't say anything. There was no finale, no goodbye, and no tribute. Just a slow fading of something that once pulled in millions. Loyal viewers who stuck around saw their favorite show quietly vanish. Social media noticed, but the network ignored it. No one wanted to talk about the end. Behind closed doors, the decision was final. The History Channel had moved on, and so had the world of television. What worked in 2010 didn't work in 2024. The slow-burn, low-drama reality format no longer pulled the same weight. Trends shifted, and American Pickers became a relic of a different TV era. One insider claimed that the final straw came from a failed test episode. A new duo was trialed in secret, filmed on location in Ohio. It didn't air, but feedback from execs was brutal. No spark, no flow, no value. After that, any hope of saving the franchise was shelved. It proved that without Frank, even new faces couldn't revive the energy. The show may be gone, but its spirit lives on, inside dusty garages, old barns, and hopeful collectors. A lost treasure in reality TV history. American Pickers isn't airing any new episodes right now, but the show's spirit lives on, like treasures that have been hidden away and are ready to be found again. Mike Wolfe, who was the show's original heart and steady driver, is still there. People from all over the country come to his antique archaeology shops in Iowa and Tennessee, which are always busy. People don't just come to shop, they come to remember good times. They look through aisles of old signs, oil cans, and worn-out tools, trying to feel the nostalgic feeling that the show gave them for more than 10 years. On social media, Mike has found a way to remember those times. His Instagram page is full of moving tributes to Americana, clips from old shows, and behind-the-scenes stories. But there's more than just old stuff. He's hinted at something bigger coming up. People have begun to talk about writing a book or even making a video. Not a reboot, but a time to think about yourself. A journey into the secret meanings of the things they found, the places they went, and the people whose lives they changed. It could be the ending that fans didn't even know they were waiting for, if it comes to life. Frank Fritz's road has been much more private and painful. A terrible stroke happened to him in 2022, and he spent most of that year in rehab, away from the public eye. Not much new has been said about his health, but when news does come out, it is met with support and hope. A lot of fans saw Frank as more than just a friend. He was the heart, the soul, and people like you and me. His rough laugh, stubborn charm, and deep love of collecting made him easy to relate to in a way that not many TV stars can. His absence left a hole that could never be fully filled by anyone else. The chemistry changed when he was quietly taken off the show. There was a change. The magic went out, but the show kept going. People could feel it. Frank's story has taken a sad turn, but his impact on American Pickers will never be erased. Fans still talk about their favorite Frank moments, the deals he made, the fights he had with Mike, and how he gave forgotten things emotional weight. Danielle Colby, who played the show's tough and creative office manager, has made her own way since she stopped being famous. Danielle has gone back to her roots. She is known for her love of old clothes, burlesque, and all things artsy. She now focuses on her burlesque shows, making costumes, and personal art projects. Online, she gives fans views of her busy life. Mike and Frank were more manly, but her style, voice, and presence on the show helped balance them out. Even though she's not on camera, her effect on the show's mood and style is undeniable. The American Picker's name is still around, even though the cameras have stopped rolling. There are still shops open and people using social media, and fans are still holding on to hope. A lot of people have even started online campaigns calling for a farewell tour or one last reunion show. In 2024, there were rumors that the original three might appear in a one-time show, but nothing official ever came out. No any news, not a real goodbye, nothing but silence. And sometimes, nothing says it better than quiet. But how the show ended doesn't define its impact. What it gave people is what makes it what it is. With each dusty barn, it brought lost parts of America into our living rooms. Each pick was a piece of history. Every talk had a story to tell. The show didn't just show old things, it explained what they meant. People who saw it learned that worth doesn't always cost money, that an old rusty sign or broken machine could hold memories that have been passed down for decades, like family secrets. Not only were the antiques what made the show great, but also Mike and Frank's bond, the jokes, the trust, and their shared desire to find something real. No planned drama. Nothing flashy was made. Just two friends looking for stories in the back roads of the United States. That it was real was its best quality. That's why fans kept coming back, because it seemed honest in a world where that doesn't happen very often. A lot of people who watched the show never knew how close it was to becoming something completely different. Mike is said to have pitched a spin-off show in late 2023 that would focus on the deeper historical meaning of their finds. He wanted to look at some of the most famous things again with the help of historians, archivists, and even the relatives of the people who owned them in the first place. The idea was brave, helpful, and from the heart. The network did work, though. The emotional bond wasn't there without Frank. That dream then quietly went away behind the scenes. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.